The church does something very intentional when we look at the gospel readings. When we analyze the lectionary, we begin to notice a common theme that runs through all of the readings, and that is a movement from death to life. Week after week, the church places in front of us a an example or different forms of death, and then shows Christ reversing those forms of death. On the first Sunday of Lent, this theme isn't that apparent. We see Jesus turning water into wine. But scientifically, when we look at this story, water is made of hydrogen and oxygen. It's an inorganic compound. Wine, on the other hand, has undergone fermentation. It is an organic compound. In other words, Christ took something that was simple and that was flat, and it turns it into something richer, fuller, more alive. And that transformation becomes a template that the church uses to organize the readings, the Sunday gospel readings for Lent. Every single Sunday after that, we see Christ revealing and Christ fixing some form of death in an even clearer way. For the leper, we see that his dead flesh is restored. For the paralytic, his dead limbs are strengthened. For the Canaanite woman's daughter, her deadened spirit is healed. For the bent woman, her dead spine is made upright. For the blind man, his dead eyes are open. At the end of Lent, after the first 40 days of Lent, we come to Lazarus Saturday, where this theme culminates not only in one function being restored or one limb being fixed, we see a whole man, 4 days dead, Lazarus, being raised from the tomb. And so the question arises, why does the church give us these readings? Why does the church do this? The church is not randomly selecting these miracles or simply recounting what Christ did in the past. The church is showing us a clear example of what Christ continues to do in the world today. On the Sunday of the paralytic, we see in the fraction hymn given for the Eucharist, during the time of the fraction and the commixture, there is a hymn that goes like this, and I'll sing it for you. Why is it we doubt these wonders, that the lame walk and the blind see? For even when Christ calls the dead, they will hear his voice and rise up. So let us believe and praise him. For those who didn't catch the words, it's asking us a simple but potent question. Why is it that we doubt these wonders? And this question is a little bit uncomfortable for us because most of us believe in the idea that Christ performed miracles. We believe in the stories, we believe in the healings, but somewhere deep down, we separate the Christ in the stories from the Christ in our lives in 2026. We believe that he healed then, but we have trouble believing that he still heals now. We believe that he transformed lives then, but we have trouble believing that he can transform our life today. And so anticipating this feeling that we may have, and the church in its wisdom gives us a strict rule or a test to show us who really sustains us. She takes away three things that we feel are extremely vital in our life. The church asks us to give up food through fasting. She asks us to give up money through almsgiving. And she asks us to give up time through increased prayer. And why these three things, you may ask? These three things are things we constantly say, I don't have enough of, right? I don't have enough food. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time especially. And so food, money, and time are the currencies of modern survival in this day and age. They are what we think sustains us in this world. And so as the church removes these three things to show us the truth, the whole concept of Lent becomes a spiritual experiment, a spiritual diagnosis for ourselves to see who really sustains me. When you're stripped of excess comfort, when you loosen your grip on money, when you carve out time that should belong to productivity, what remains? If we are honest, much of our spiritual life operates at the surface. We function, we attend church, we participate, but parts of us are truly spiritually dead. We see this problem is reflected in the wedding at Cana itself. At Cana, at the wedding, the people thought the first wine that was served was great. It was fine. No one had any complaints. But when Christ makes his wine, the master of the feast points out specifically and says, they have saved the best wine until now. The master of the feast is his role is to go to multiple weddings and to find and to organize a feast. He's tasted many wines. For him to say something like this proves that Christ's wine was not just ordinary, it was extraordinary. And that is the same thing that happens for us during Lent. Sometimes we think of our current habits as fine. Our routines, our distractions, our comforts, they seem good enough. But when we experience Christ deeply, his presence, his strength, his peace, everything else feels inferior. He does not merely replace what we give up, he surpasses it. Through this Lent, I would challenge all of us not just to reduce this season to just a religious routine. Instead, we should fast intentionally, to pray deeply, and to give wholeheartedly. Let it be an examination to honestly and truthfully look at the parts of our life that are broken, to ask ourselves where we have quietly accepted death. And then, after that examination, to let Christ confront those places of death, because the same Christ that confronted and went in front of the tomb and called Lazarus out of the tomb is the same Christ that is active here in 2026. And so for me, I think beyond physical signs that Christ performed, the bigger miracle is when a distracted heart comes to peace and a spiritually dead person becomes alive again. So this Lent, I challenge you to take this opportunity to actually encounter Christ, to see for ourselves that a life with him is stronger than food, deeper than money, and more sustaining than time itself. May God bless us all.